Hey everybody, PC Outcast here, back with more Everlasting Summer. I sat down on the bench and closed my eyes for a moment. What's that? I didn't really give a damn who it was, probably just a fellow pioneer girl taking an interest in an unfamiliar companion in distress. What are you talking about? I asked her tiredly. She didn't reply. Those are the ingredients for a cake. Do you like cakes? I don't know. What, you've never tried cake? I don't know. Obviously, the girl didn't get what I was talking about, but it didn't surprise me at that moment. I really wasn't interested in the conversation. I was so tired that I had zero intention of classifying external distractions and tagging them as either common or uncommon. I see. Come down the canteen later and have a bite. Really? Really? And what are they made of? What? I asked indifferently. These. Cakes. Well, some flour, some sugar, various fillings. Now that's a strange question. Doesn't she know what cakes are made of? And you have it all here? Yeah, sort of. And sugar? And sugar. Could you lend me a little? What for? I thought it was over the top. A sudden gust of wind made me grab the cart instinctively and open my eyes. However, nobody was there. Am I daydreaming? I noticed, though, that the sugar sack was untied and a small heap of it had poured out. Could it be that she was scared by the wind and ran away? Having fixed the sack, I got up from the bench and continued on my challenging strawberry way. There wasn't a single person near the canteen. No wonder, dinner was still an hour away. I brought the handcart to the rear exit and handed the foodstuffs to the camp cook. She must have already been told what to do with them, as she gave me such an unpleasant look. I'm not sure how long it takes to bake a cake, but it seems she had to hurry. I just wanted to relax for the remaining time and up until dinner. In short, I was so tired that I just sat on the steps and waited. My eyes closed themselves. I guess I got so tired throughout the day that I didn't even notice how someone came up to me until they patted me on the shoulder. Hi! Miku was standing before me. Yeah, I didn't need a mirror to imagine the expression of skepticism and annoyance on my face. Oh, excuse me, I must have interrupted you. No problem, I was just sitting here. Ah, alright then. Miku beamed with a smile. I was just coming to dinner. I thought that it's time already, and then it appeared to me that it's too early. But I decided to check in just in case. Maybe it's not me who's mistaken, but the clock is. Well, not the clock. Clocks can't be mistaken. It's just that I misread it. She seemed to be ultimately confused now and fell silently. It's still about half an hour before dinner. Oh, that's great. Then I'll sit here and wait with you if you don't mind. Frankly speaking, I do mind. You know, I have some matters to attend to. I stood up quickly and left without saying goodbye, ignoring Miku as I always did, while she screamed something after me. A minute later, I got to the square and sat on the bench with the firm intention of finding a quiet and safe place here to wait for dinner. I think this is the first time in the last 4.5 days when I felt like this. I wasn't just irritated because of some insignificant details, but indeed, I was really angry. I've completely stopped caring about where I am and why I'm here. I don't care about how to get out either. What's driving me mad is that I always have to carry out some stupid task given by our camp leader, and it's always me who gets into stupid situations and sometimes even ends up looking like a clown. If all of this is some alien trick or a plot of the universal mind, they better consult with their psychiatrist. I gritted my teeth and clenched my fists. The most annoying thing is that everything that happens seems to happen by itself somehow. I'd be happier not having to carry around bags of sugar that weigh a ton, but I had no choice at all. I mean, any other option would lead to much worse consequences than a muscle strain or hurt pride. Who are you angry with? Ilana was standing in front of me and smiled slyly. Nobody really, I answered absently. but my fists gave me away. Just like that. Oh, okay. It's up to you. You better tell me, why did you run around the camp the whole day with some kind of bags? I had to. I've replied reluctantly. I guess it was food. Maybe it was. Yolana was about to say something, but at that moment the bell rang, calling the pioneers for dinner. I sighed in relief and quickly headed to the canteen, leaving Yolana behind. Semyon, thank you very much. For what? The camp leader gave me a friendly smile. For the cake, of course. Ah, sure. It was at that exact moment that I understood the true meaning of saying, keep your thanks to feed your cat. You didn't tell anybody. This ought to be a surprise. Yeah, that's my boy. And now off you go to dinner. Olga waved her hand, pointing at the canteen. I stepped through the doorway slowly and started to look for a free place. Turned out there were plenty today, so I got the chance to eat all alone. There was fish with mashed potatoes for dinner. What misfortune once again. I'll be left half hungry. I didn't have fish for lunch. Didn't we have fish for lunch? Is it a fish-only day today? Oh, falling asleep again. Having pushed my plate with the fried sea dweller away, I laid my head on my hands and closed my eyes. But soon somebody came up to the table. Hey, you alright? I'm fine. I replied without changing my position. Just tired? Yeah, a little. That's bad. Slavia said it seriously. Of course. You remember that we're going for the hike after the dinner, don't you? Have you prepared everything? You've got to be kidding. What? Where? I opened my eyes and lifted my head up instantly. Lena was standing by Slavia. The hike? She was surprised. Didn't you know? No. I put my head down on the table and covered it with my hands. If only I could sink into the ground right away. The girls remained silent. I was left alone with my thoughts for some time, and that was fine by me. Maybe I could have sat that way until the end of dinner time, but the strong voice of Olga was heard from the opposite end of the canteen. Guys! To celebrate the miraculous rescue of our friend and comrade, Shurik, we baked this cake for you all. Well, I lifted my head idly and looked towards the camp leader, but couldn't see anything beyond the pioneers' backs. A second, just a second, and nothing about me. Nothing about me rescuing Shurik or gathering the ingredients for the cake. As if that's how it ought to be. Well, could be wrong to expect anything else from our camp leader. Let's go. Or we won't get our share. Slavia smiled. Let's go. Lena agreed. Yeah, sure. I got up reluctantly and tagged along behind the girls. As we approached the crowd of pioneers, Olga was just putting the cake in the center of the table. And now... the camp leader wasn't able to finish as Yolana rushed out of the pioneer crowd and dived into the cake. Oh no. She managed to nibble at it a few times before she was pulled away. She was kicking and screaming. I stared blankly from the outside at all this drama. Alyssa smiling, Lena picking up some cream from with her finger, all the furious pioneers around. I felt completely out of place here. I thought that if I closed my eyes now and opened them again, here I am, back to the safety of my apartment in front of a computer. I blinked, but nothing changed. Only the noise and the confusion became sharper. Yolana, that's the limit. I just... well, in fact, behaving like this is a bit over the top, even for her. Shurik broke into the conversation, or is it a court-martial? Please, Olga, since the cake is celebrating my return, it's no big deal. He hesitated. It doesn't matter. The camp leader turned to Yolana. And you. Today I'm going to punish you to the fullest extent, so you'll behave next time. Ah, whatever. She snorted and turned back. You won't be going on the hike with us tonight. As if I wanted to. I was more than willing to switch places with Yolana and skip the hike instead of her, but who knew? If I had have guessed beforehand, I'd have been the first one to go berserk and smash the damn cake. After a couple of minutes of confusion, the pioneers started to disperse. You have to get ready too. There'll be a lineup at the square in half an hour. I looked straight into the eyes of the camp leader, trying to express my attitude non-verbally, but it seems that I failed. Don't be late. Ilana was sitting at the table when I approached her on my way to the exit. So why did he do it? She looked very upset, but she had a right to be so. I wanted to. Ilana replied abruptly. So you're happy now? Of course I am. And you. Good luck with the hiking. She smiled mischievously, sprang up, and rushed out of the canteen. Well, a little bit of luck wouldn't hurt. Walk, and you shall reach. It was exactly this proverb that kept whirling in my head all the way down to the camp leader's cabin. Somehow I just couldn't manage to argue, to pretend that I'm sick, or to just skip it without a reason. The events of this day taught me submissiveness, although sometimes whatever was happening made no sense to me. As I walked in, I had a thought. Well, in fact, how could I get ready? Clothes? Only have an overcoat and a pair of jeans. Anyway, I forgot to ask whether it's going to be an overnight hike or not. I couldn't think of anything better, so I grabbed the sweater that I had on me. When I arrived in the camp, the night might be fairly chilly, and shuffled slowly off to the square. All the camp was already there, although it was about 10 minutes before the time Olga designated. I settled down near the edge and waited patiently. Night was falling. If viewed from the outside, what a fairly comical picture we would make. A crowd of pioneers lined up out of a sheer habit, like they were awaiting a silent command from the bronze Genda, whatever. And all this happening in the scarlet rays of the sunset. And there he is, waving his hand, screaming, "Attack!" as roaring soldiers with red neckerchiefs charge into the battle against some ghostly enemy. But Olga showed up and started to talk instead of Genda. Whatever. Seems everybody's here. Great. I was so tired today that I couldn't even think about anything, so I ended up just listening to the camp leader. Now today, we'll go hiking. It is essential for every pioneer to be able to come and rescue his comrade, to offer a helping hand in the hour of need, saving them from a hopeless situation. We have to learn to do all these things together. A whisper that ran through the pioneer crowd suggested that most probably this truly epic expedition would end in a clearing in the forest several hundred feet away from the square. Somehow I thought so too. We'll walk in pairs. So if you haven't chosen a partner for yourself yet, now's the right time to do so. Pioneers quickly caught on to the idea and started to match in pairs. It looked like I was the only one without a partner. Slavia was enthusiastically discussing something with Olga. Lena was with Miku. Elektronik was, of course, with Shirk. Well, it might not be a bad idea to go alone after all. Semyon! The voice of the camp leader pulled me out of my thoughts. I went up to her reluctantly. I see that you haven't found a partner. Seems like it. Then you'll join Xenia. She's alone too. Oh, good grief. I was struck with that special kind of despair that only a true loner can experience. So it appears that I'm left with the prickly librarian that I wouldn't risk spending a couple of hours with even if I was paid for it. Although we both seem to be in the same boat now. I slowly approached Xenia. Well, I guess we'll be going together. She looked up at me. Don't you even think that I'm glad? Said Xenia seriously. Why on earth you would feel glad? I asked naively. Never mind. It would be much better if you just shut up. It couldn't get any better than this. She turned her back on me and followed the other pioneers. I still haven't seen any special reason to walk in pairs. Anyway, we were walking on the well-trodden forest trails, and it would be quite difficult to get lost here even if I wanted to. Moreover, while we'd already been hiking for half an hour, we weren't rushing into the depths of the forest, trying to face all the dangers that could test our courage and harden our pioneer spirits, but instead we were just walking around in circles. However, if we take into account that Olga was our chief, this hike could be compared to a hobbit's march from the Shire to Mordor. Just as Xenia insisted, I was following her at a distance in silence. The librarian seemed to be perfectly okay with it. Hey, don't you know when we'll reach our destination? Our what? Ahem, the place where we'll settle down and set up camp. The whole point of this hike isn't to set up a camp, but the hiking itself. You don't get it. Yeah, it seemed that I didn't understand a thing about hiking. I guess you're right, but still. I don't know. She replied sharply and quickened her pace. I caught up with her and asked, Listen, why are you always so... I was about to say mean, but stopped short. I haven't done anything bad to you, and I'm not going to. She glared at me in surprise. Always so... what? Well, unsociable, kind of. Or is it something about me? Oh, cut that stupidity out already. As you wish. I decided not to start a conversation with her for the rest of the hike. At last, Olga decided to end this Sisyphean toil? Sisyphean toil? It's time to halt. The place chosen turned out to be a quite large glade, with a few tree trunks laid in a half circle to make an improvised arbor, with the remains of a campfire in the middle. Obviously, such hikes were a tradition of this camp. I was sent to gather firewood together with the other boys. It didn't take long, because there were a lot of branches and logs of various sizes laying around. Eventually, Olga lit the fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but couldn't discern anything other than Soviet symbols. Pioneers took their places on the fallen log benches and started to talk about things. It seems that the final goal of this event had been achieved. The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminum cups of vodka, and a guitar. But I wouldn't be surprised if all these would appear somehow. What are you thinking about? Slavia sat next to me. Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike. I answered sarcastically. You don't look too happy. Well, I'm not about to jump for joy. Sorry about that. Okay, I won't disturb you. She sat with me for a while, but after realizing that I wasn't in the mood of talking, she left me to enjoy my introspection alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible, but I was being surrounded by smoke and the useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing and in general enjoying this warm summer evening. In the far side of the glade, I noticed that Lena was arguing with Alyssa intensely. Intensely and Alina seemed like complete opposites to me. Slavia had left to go somewhere after our conversation, it seems. Elektronik and Shirik were trying furiously to prove something to Olga. Looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. Yeah, I'll go over and see what Alyssa and Lena are arguing about. But on the other hand, why should I care? All I was doing was just watching the fire. There's a saying that claims that one could watch it forever as well as running water. But there was also some third thing there. What was that? One could watch 3 things forever: burning fire, running water, and how other people work. The camp leader pulled me out of my daydreaming. Semyon, don't you think that it's too early to relax? What else would I need to do? I honestly couldn't get what Olga wanted from me. I don't know. She stopped for a moment. But if there's something to be done, then do it, without hesitation. She smiled ambiguously and went back to the fire to throw a few branches on. After those words, I am completely sure that she treats me like a personal slave. Or at least like I'm a free labor force, which is, strictly speaking, the same thing. I sighed and put my head down on my hands, hoping my torments would be over for today. Someone patted me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw Shirik and Elektronik, who sat next to me. What do you want? I asked tiredly. Don't be sad. Is there anything better to do? Look, we've been discussing the possibilities for the advancement of the Cybernetics Club with Olga. And there's a problem. We need more guys. If you could... He hesitated. Advancement and those guys are incompatible with each other. I said nothing and started to look over the pioneers around me instead. Well? I don't have time. Can't you see that I'm always busy with the camp leader's errands? Yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of embarrassing how it all went today with Yolana. I looked at him with surprise. Seems that Shirk blames himself for that cake incident. Yeah, it is. All the pioneers seem to be here, but I couldn't spot Slavia anywhere. I think she's angry with me. Who? I asked absently. Yolana. Maybe I should apologize. No, it's not your fault. We sat silently for a while, and then I stood up and said, my legs are numb, I need to take a walk. They made no reply. I made a few circles around our improvised camp, noticing the close looks of the camp leader following me. Looks like Olga couldn't wait to come up with some kind of new task for me. I haven't found Slavia anywhere. Maybe I should go and try to find her? On the other hand, I felt sorry for Yolana every time I recalled her upset face. Maybe this hike isn't the most entertaining thing ever, but sitting there all alone isn't any better either. But at the same time, I didn't want to go anywhere. Try to find Slavia, go to Yolana, or remain seated. Yeah, Slavia's probably disappeared, just like Shirak did, so I'm gonna have to chase her down at some point. So I'm just gonna sit my butt down. I guess that's enough for me today. I sat in my previous place and waited for the end of hike patiently, almost physically able to feel the looks of the camp leader aimed at me. At last, she stood up and declared, "And now, let's play cities." I had nothing against the game itself, but it was obvious that the hike will take longer because of it. Pioneers sat around the fire. I noticed Lena and Alyssa, who took their places on a trunk opposite me. Seems that everything's alright. And just a few minutes ago, I'd thought the opposite while looking at their quarrel. Yeah, how come did I accidentally select the wrong thing? Like, I was supposed to go over and find out what their fight was about. That's weird. But anything's possible. I'd really like to know what they were talking about, but it's impossible now, and I could feel tiredness growing in me more and more. My mind was completely blank. To be precise, my head was so heavy that there was no place in it for ideas to unfold. While in my better times, my brain appeared to be a wide highway with millions of thoughts running by, chasing one another and causing major crashes, now it was more like a footpath lost in the woods, which is used rarely and only in exceptional cases. Flavia didn't come back. Maybe she had something to do? But once again, there's no way to find out now. Okay, let's start. Moscow. Pioneers started to name cities. Finally, it was my turn. I tried to listen closely to catch the first letter of the city I'll have to use. Arkhangelsk. We played several rounds. Each new city name made it harder to remember everything that was mentioned before. My attention was dissipating and I was already lost in all these capitals, megapolises, villages, and urban settlements. Semyon, it's your turn! Olga brought me back to reality. Oh, excuse me, and what was the last one? You're daydreaming again. It was Sevastopol. Okay. Then I'll say London. Already used. Well then, you got me thinking. There were tons of cities in the world starting with L, but it was hard to remember even one of them now. Liverpool? Already there. Los Angeles? Ah, finally. She gave me a scornful look, but the game went on. I could barely bear to think of another city starting with L, but fortunately, it was the last round. Okay, that's enough for today. It's already late. Time to go back. I sighed with relief. On our way back, we walked as we liked without joining in pairs. Night descended upon a camp. Perfectly regular and normal night. It was one of those nights when dark skies, stars, and even a crescent moon don't cause any special feelings, and the chirping of crickets and the sounds of the night birds seemed more like routine work noises than a nocturnal chorus. In a few minutes, all the pioneers were lining up in the square. It was quite late already, and fatigue took its toll, so our lineup wasn't perfectly aligned. Looked to me more like a line of Vikings after a successful battle where the warriors are happy and smiling, anticipating their return to their families rather than thinking about maintaining correct formation. But someone else could possibly see a completely defeated troop or a bunch of survivors who have to march to their homeland with the last of their strength. Thanks, everyone, and now go to sleep. It's late already. Pioneers quickly each ran their own ways, and I was left together with the camp leader. And we should go too. We went in complete silence to Olga's cabin. Okay, let's sleep. She's getting awfully bossy. She said, turning off the light. I was tossing and turning for quite a while, recalling all the events of the day. I'm shocked that he is actually tossing and turning. On the other hand, I was overcome with fatigue. Or on the one hand. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd forgotten something. Done something wrong. Said something wrong. And this feeling of incompleteness was tormenting me. It was about 2 a.m. All bad things would end sooner or later. Or at least would take a break. I fell asleep. And that is a perfect place to stop for this episode. Thanks very much for joining me, and we will see you in the next one.